Everyone wants to make more money, and I don't think there's a human out there that doesn't want to actually try and figure out how to double their money. Today, we're going to talk about how I play the doubles game. I'm randomly going to select 100 of you to receive your own gold-plated coin. I used to carry around a gold coin kind of similar to this one right here. Not to spend, but because it reminded me of wealth, and it was a symbol for me of what was to come and what I could achieve financially. As a thank you for your support, I want to give you a little piece of motivation to remind you of what you can achieve and the results that you can get in life. So, when this channel hits 500 subscribers, I'm randomly going to select 100 of you to receive your own gold-plated coin. These coins are real currency from around the world that have been plated in 100 mils of fine gold. Now, this might not make you rich, but it just might give you enough inspiration, as sometimes just holding a little bit of wealth in your hands can make you feel a certain way and drive you to go out and achieve the best results. My hope is that you not only achieve all of your financial goals, but also that you then take that knowledge and go out and pass it back to the world. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button, like this video, and you are automatically in the running. First off, if we're going to talk about doubling our money and playing the financial doubles game, at least like I play it, I want to talk about what this video will not be. You see, one of the things you do when you're going to do a talk like this and hopefully educate people is you're going to draw from your own experience. And that's always what I do. I draw from where I've been and what I have done and how I've achieved the results that I have achieved. But the other thing you do is you look at what everybody else is talking about, and maybe you reference some books and videos and other materials. When I started to do that, I thought that everything I was looking at was extremely general, very broad, and they used words like investing and leverage and compound interest, and they talked about the rule of 72, and it all ended up being extremely vague. At the end of it all, I still didn't have the peanuts, and I will explain. See, if I just said, hey, you have $100, right? And you want to double that money. Well, if we go a certain amount of time and a certain amount of interest and we employ this rule and a little bit of time goes by, you're going to take that $100 and you're going to turn it into $200. Just look at the formula. There's this little formula here, and that's going to make your $100 $200. Well, I found all of this to be extremely subjective. We don't know exactly how they're calculating the interest, and it certainly didn't show that even if I was going to make an investment that would turn 100 or 1,000 into 2,000, didn't give me any specifics. What investment am I using? What is the vehicle that's holding my money? What is the interest rate? And how long do I have to go? Sure, I can plug in all of these formulas, but at the end of every video or even the lines in books and all of these formulas that I looked up, no one ever told you exactly what to do. You see, if you wanted to know about peanuts and you said, hey, Daniel, I know you like peanuts and you've had peanuts all over the world and you've had peanuts on every flight you've ever taken and you've eaten peanuts in 12 different countries, and someone called me and asked me about peanuts, I feel that these YouTubers and other people trying to describe something, they'd start to tell you, well, you have to look for the right soil and the right elements and get enough sunlight, and you want to go to the indigenous people of southern Brazil where the best peanuts come from, and they want to talk to you about the skin and the different types of peanuts and all of the ingredients that would go to grow the perfect peanut. And I'm going to tell you, hey, listen, I've had peanuts all over the world, and if you go down to the corner of Warm Springs and Sunset, there's this great convenience store, and they have a brand called Best Peanut, and if you walk in there, the guy's going to sell you a bag of Best Peanut, and believe it or not, they don't just call them Best Peanuts, it's some of the best peanuts I've ever had. So why don't you go down to Mac's convenience store and buy some peanuts? I'm going to give you the nuts and bolts. I'm, at the end of the day, a pretty simple person. I consider myself to be a caveman. If you ask me how to do something, I'm going to find the simplest way just to get to there. And I want it explained to me as if I was a small child. And that's how I'm going to explain it. Go there and you'll find the peanuts. I'm not going to give you any crazy formulas that don't make sense or that are very hard to plug in. I'm just going to tell you how to get the peanuts. And that's what we're going to do today. The simplest way, the most direct route is usually the way there. Let's just define for a second, like, what does making more money and doubling your money even look like? Let's talk about the term doubling your money. There's a couple things you can look at. One, are we doubling our income, the actual amount of money that we make? Are we doubling our savings? Or are we doubling the money on a certain project? Maybe we're the type of person who makes commissions and I want to double my commission, right? This doesn't happen every single day, but if you double your commissions, you are doubling the amount of money that you make. Normally on a project you make $5,000 and now on a project you'd like to make $10,000. Maybe at the end of every month, after paying all your bills, you're able to save $150 or $200. Maybe you'd like that 200 to be 400. Maybe you just want to double your savings. But doubling is doubling no matter what you do. And if you're investing money and you're making twice what you made before, well, you have doubled it. So that's what I want to talk about. When I was a kid, I used to work with my dad, and I started out really young, maybe 5 or 6 years old. He would take me to work. He was in construction. And I remember he used to give me $2 a day. Well, a specific amount of time went by and I got to $5 a day and then $10. And then came the day when I was about 10 years old where we're driving home and he reaches into his wallet like he would do at the end of the day and he pulls out a $20 bill and he gives me $20. And this was the first time I really thought to myself, like, wow. $20 a day. If I keep going down this path and I literally get better at what I do and make more money, I'm going to get to the point where I make $100 a day. And when I make $100 a day, what can't I do? I just was imagining in my little brain, $100. Man, that's $500 a week. That's $2,000 a month. I mean, I could buy whatever kind of bike I wanted, and I could go camping, and I could ride down to the pizza place at the beach and have pizza whenever I want. I mean, what can't you do with $100 a day? Well, of course, years went by and I got older and kept working with my dad, and I came to the day when I made $100 a day. And of course, none of those things was what I was thinking. I was now saying to myself, man, imagine when I make $200 a day. Someday I'm going to make $200 a day. That is $1,000 a week. That's $50,000 a year. What can't you do with $200 a day? Thank goodness from then until now I have kept going up the ranks and kept doubling my money. I noticed that there's some specific key factors. There's basically 3 things that have come into play over and over and over again and which have allowed me to consistently double my money. I want to say first that it's not always just so clear cut like, oh, I made $100 and then I jumped up to $200. It doesn't exactly work like that. That's not the math of it. I got to 200, of course, but I did it in stages. It happens incrementally. Maybe I made $100 for a while and then started making 120 and then 125, and came the day I made 165 and then 175. So you go up in stages, and that's how it happens. It's how it should happen. I think a lot of people, when they think of doubling your money, they want to just come up with some magical formula or use one of these rules that's out there and say, I'm just going to make X amount of money until I double that and I'm going to make more. No, it takes time. It may happen over a period of months. It may happen over a period of years. Another thing I want to allude to is the idea that you need to make a lot of money to double your money. It's actually the opposite. It's easier to go from making $10 an hour to making $20 an hour, from $40 an hour to making $79, $80 an hour, than it is for someone who makes $1 million a year already to get to $2 million. That's a lot harder. It's easier to go from $50,000 a year to $100K than it is from $2 million to $4 million or $5 million. That's a bigger stretch, and it's different chess moves entirely. Similar, but bigger moves. Don't think that because you have some smaller job and maybe you work in retail, or maybe you work in a cubicle, or maybe you're doing computer work and you have 3 bosses above you, that you can't double your income and double the amount of money you bring in. And before I give you these rules, I would also like to allude to one other thing, and that's that what does making more money and doubling your income really mean to you? Because maybe it is doubling your hourly wage. Maybe you make $10 an hour and you want to make $20 an hour. Maybe you make $40,000 a year and you want to make $80,000 a year. But isn't doubling your money just doubling your money? I mean, if you make an investment and you put $1,000 somewhere and it grows to $2,000, that's still doubling your money. Another way of doubling your money might be that you just consider having more money in savings, doubling your money. Maybe you're working a job and then after all of your expenses every month, you're able to bank $150 and that's all you can kind of skim off the top and get into savings. Well, if you're putting away $150 a month and you figure out a way to put away $300 a month, haven't you doubled your savings? You're doubling your money. And that's another version. So don't get caught up in the idea, the definition that just doubling your income is just doubling one thing. It's just doubling, hey, if I'm making X amount a week, now I'm making twice that. Doubling your money is doubling your money, and it could happen in many different ways. Maybe you have a side hustle that's making you an extra $200 a month, but your side hustle now starts to make you $400 a month because you're able to put up more time into it, or maybe just increase the amount of customers you have with that particular side hustle. So the three factors that I kind of discerned on why I was able to double my income so effectively, or get to that double point, was number one, my ability to earn. I want you to remember this. Your ability to earn money is always going to be the greatest factor in you being able to double your income someday. And how would you do that? How is your ability to earn mean anything at all? You would make yourself more valuable. And see, that's what I was doing. I was going out and I was working. And today I'm a business owner, but back in the day it was just a job, right? I worked my job, but I used my ability to earn to become more valuable to my bosses. See, I had bosses and they had other employees and I wanted to be the standout. So I would always figure out a way to do my job better, more efficiently, and many times quicker than the other employees. And this made me more valuable. When I would ask for a raise, then I usually would get it. And of course, I would also figure out a lot of other ways to up my income, because that's what I was always thinking about, how to earn more, how to get to that double place. How would one do that? You might be saying, well, I don't own my own business and I am just working a job, and maybe I'm working in a cubicle, maybe I'm behind a desk on a computer all day, maybe I'm a server in a restaurant, or maybe I'm working in fast food or retail. There's many ways, and I used all of them. The first thing you want to do is you want to talk to your boss. If you're the most valuable employee there and you're a standout, then usually when you go talk to your boss and start thinking about things like maybe getting a raise, maybe getting more hours on the job, maybe asking for a better position, maybe being in charge a little bit more, being in a better position where you're running some other people below you. The other thing you might do is you may get a side hustle involved. You may increase your job hours. You may increase your hourly pay. You may increase your position. But there's nothing wrong with having a side hustle. Many people do that, and I did that. A particular example that I look at in the real world that I've seen for myself is I came from the East Coast, and when I moved here, I started going to this Dunkin' Donuts, because that's what we have on the East Coast, and I like Dunks better than a lot of other coffee. So I would go in, and at first there was this girl that worked there amongst the many people who worked there, and she worked part-time. And obviously she was finishing up school. Well, the end of the year, school year came, and she finished school, and I started seeing her there more and more. So one day I go in, and she's usually the person up at the counter working the register, and me and my boy are getting coffee. And I said, how's it working here? She's like, oh yeah, it's pretty good, but I'm at minimum wage and just making what I'm making, so it's cool. It's a fun job. Well, a few months down the line, I noticed that she has a different color shirt on, and that she is assistant managing now. And I said, oh, that's great, moving up in the world. And then about 6-7 months after that, I noticed she had a manager shirt on, meaning she made herself more valuable. Her bosses obviously noticed that she wanted to work. She came in, probably didn't complain about the hours, and she managed to move her way up. When I first started talking to her, she was at about $12 an hour, and now as a manager, she was actually over $20 an hour. So she's well on her way to doubling her income. And this is with a very basic job working in service, retail of a coffee shop. The second thing I realized was that I would have to cut expenses. The first thing I'm going to have to do is look at my ability to earn and the ability to make myself more valuable doing what I was doing. But number two was definitely cutting expenses. See, sometimes making more money is not an income problem, it's an expense problem. So if you're spending too much money, then you don't have as much, correct? I was guilty of that myself. When I had my own business and I first started my business, I kind of acted like Mr. Moneybags too, and I would want to buy morning coffees for the whole crew, and when the weekend came, I would kind of want to cut loose and go for long rides and maybe eat out a lot and do things. So here I was killing myself to make the money, but then I was putting it right back into society by just spending it. I had to realize that if I cut back on my expenses, I just would have more money. Period. And having more money means, well, having more money. I was able to put more money in savings and put more money towards my business to make me more money. So I was kind of rolling it over and investing in myself and in my business. A lot of people, what they want to do is make more money, but then they just spend more money. So they don't have it. They could have the opportunity to double what they're bringing in, but they wouldn't even notice it. Even if they do, they just actually spend on the other side. They spend double. They make more money, so they just spend. So you have to realize that sometimes it's not an income problem, it's an expense problem. And if you just have more money, then you have more money to budget, save, put away, and then reinvest. The third factor was mindset. And I had to realize something, that wealthy people think differently, and they don't make the money and always just be thinking, what am I going to spend it on? You see, poor and working class many times are only working for their next purchase. That's literally how they're thinking. They're going out into the world saying, I'm working, I'm going to save my money, and then I'm going to do this thing, whether it's a vacation or upgrade their car or buy a piece of furniture for their condo or home. They're literally working and just thinking, this is what I'm going to spend the money on. I need to make an extra $700 because that thing costs $700. The wealthy don't think like that. They think that I'm working to make the money to just put it away so that A, I have it, and B, when I'm ready, I can now put it to work for me and it can make me more money. So put it into an investment vehicle, whether it's gold or silver or real estate or their business, whatever it is. But that's literally the thinking about how they're going about it. They want to make the money so that they can put it somewhere that someday it would become more money. Poor people don't think like that. And the working class, many of us don't think like that. Why? Because we're going out and we're working hard and we feel like we deserve these things. I'll give you another couple examples of how I was able to double my money and how it's not always just an income thing. Like I want to get paid more per hour. I make $10, I want to make 20. Sometimes it happens via the project. I own a construction company. When I was coming up, I was in construction, and first I worked for other people, and then I started my own business. I still own this construction company to this day, and it's one of the things that today makes me passive income. But at one point, I was the guy on the job. I was the guy doing the renovations and doing the work in people's homes. And I remember I had a particular job one day, and I went out and estimated it, and estimated that it would be about a $10,000 job, and it would take me and my crew of 3, so there were 4 of us, it would take me and my crew of 3 about 10 days to complete this renovation. I started thinking, I went home, and as I'm running the numbers and I'm really looking at the job and seeing how we're going to complete this thing, I said, I think I could do it in less time. And if I took a $10,000 job and I completed it in half the time, let's just say 5 days, then aren't I doubling my income? Aren't I doubling the amount of money that I brought in? Of course I am. It's just simple math. So I looked at the job and I said, in order to do this in 5 days, what would it take? Well, A, we'd have to work a little bit longer every day. I don't think an 8-hour day is going to cut it. B, I think I'm going to have to get some more efficient systems. It was a big job and it was kind of spread out. And I said, I'm going to have to do some efficiency training here to my guys so that we work a little smarter and less hard. The other thing is maybe it's going to take one more person. I think if I added one more person to the crew, I definitely could finish this quicker. What I did was I called all the guys and said, hey, if I paid you a little overtime, would you be willing to work 2 extra hours a day? Now let's imagine that for a minute. If I have 4 guys on the job and we all work an extra 2 hours a day, we're gaining an extra 8 hours. That's a full day. That's a whole day gained. That means in 2 days, I gain 2 days. In 3 days, I gain an additional day. So I said, if I hire one more guy, now that person working not only 8 hours, but an extra 2 days is also gaining me full days of their work. And that's shaving it off on the back end of our 10 days. Basically, we went into this job. We hit it kind of hard. We all work an extra couple hours a day. I did bring on one extra person. We ended up finishing the job in 4.5 days. Now that was kind of my style, and what I got known for was being very good, very efficient. In 4.5 days we finished the job. I mean, really still 5, because if you think about cleanup and actually getting off of the job and everything, it was a full 5 days, even though we weren't there full 10 hours on the 5th day. I managed to bring in that amount of money in 5 days. There was actually a little bonus involved, because we were actually doing a stone job, and they asked if we could stone a whole front entrance area that wasn't on the original ticket, and we managed to divide up the crews and get that done as well, which made another couple $1,000. So it ended up being a $12,000 job in 5 days. I would say that that was a real big win. Everybody got a little time off and they all got a bonus, and it worked out. I had effectively doubled, or more than doubled, my income, well, at least for that week. I have a friend who owned a pizza shop, and he figured out how to double his business. How do you do it? Well, he opened another shop. See, he's got a business model, and his business model was this small little cosmos, his world of making pizza with X amount of employees and a small shop of about 900 square feet. And he decided that it was working so well, and he knew what he was making, so he said, I wonder if I could just double this. And what he did was he opened another business in another part of town under the same name, sort of franchising himself, and he ended up doing extremely well at that second location, and once again managed to double his business. Now, this doesn't always work. I mean, everything in life is trial and error. Doubling is not always that easy, but it is doable, and I suggest that you stick with what you know. And of course, even if you are just working a job, there's certain processes you can go through to move up the ladder. Ultimately, I like to think that, like anything else, money has its own energy, right? We put energy and time into making it, keeping it, having it, earning it, saving it. Like anything else, if it has its own energy, then in the wrong hands, it wants to run. It wants to run like hell. But in the right hands, it wants to multiply. And that's what I want you to do. My name is Daniel F. Margasa. You are watching the Almost Criminal Millionaire channel. And if you like the topic of finances, money, and how to keep more of your hard-earned cash, then please like and subscribe for more.